Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built my bench press, both at home when I was a super heavyweight, and then when I lost 100 pounds and hit a 392.5 pound bench press in competition. Before I get into that topic, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. The best topic ideas I turn into videos just like this. All right, so I got two different programs here. This is when I was a super heavyweight at 346 pounds. And this is after losing 100 pounds and then coming back and competing. I actually hit a heavier bench press in competition using this type of routine. I want to preference this information by saying it certainly isn't magic. There was no real form of periodization. It was very instinctual in nature. I just did what I wanted to. Powerlifting wasn't really something that I was super obsessed with, meaning I wasn't trying to hit records. I was just having fun. I was playing a lot. I was listening to my body. I was going into the gym doing what I wanted to do on any given day. And really, that helped me just keep things fresh after 30 plus years or 28 plus years of lifting. So when I got into powerlifting, and you guys know my older videos, I was training in my dungeon or basement gym. I hit a bench press, I believe it was 388 or 383 or 388 or something like that, 387 in competition at UPA Power. I can't remember. It's been a number of years. But I did so at well over 300 pounds. My last meet, when I was approaching 346 pounds, I got my bench press up to 505 pounds using a slingshot and chains. And at the bottom, when the chains deloaded, it was about, 465 pounds. With the slingshot, end up being like, about 425 pounds. So my max at that time was about 430 raw heading into that powerlifting meet. Basically, here's what my program looked like at the time when I was a super heavyweight. And again, I'm not trying to elevate these programs as some form of magic. A lot of people ask me what I did, so I'm just letting you know, I'm just detailing what I did at the time to build my bench press. I would go in and I would do warm-up sets. I would start with the bar for 2 sets of 10, move up to 135 by 8, 225 by 5 to 8. Then I'd move up to 275 for a triple. Then I'd go 315 for a single, 365 for a single, 405 for a single, and then I'd start to ramp up towards my max weight. Now, once I got to 405, I would usually creep up by 20 or 30 pounds, 425, 445, 465. I would move up in weight, and sometimes I'd do doubles, sometimes I'd do triples. Sometimes I'd try for a new daily max. Sometimes they were with chains, sometimes they weren't with chains. Sometimes I would stay at 405 and do a max. I just varied it based on how I felt. But in general, my goal was on the days when I felt strong, I would go in and try to set a new max with the slingshot. And sometimes I do the slingshot and chains just to work on my lockout. I really tried to work on my lockout heavily at this time. So after I do my max work, and again, by then, if you can imagine, I've done 2 sets of warm-ups with the bar, a set of 135, a set of 225, a set of 275, a set at 315, a set of 365, a set at 405. Those were my warm-ups. And then I'd start ramping up 425 or 435, 455. By the time I got to my first working set, I was 10 sets in. So that's quite a build-up, but that's how I did it every single bench day. And once I was done with that stuff, then I would drop down to 405 and usually do that for max reps. Then I would drop down to 365 and do that for max reps. And then after that, depending on how I felt that day, I might do 315 for max and call it quits, or I might add another set of 275 for max and call it quits. I did this basically every 3rd or 4th or 5th day. My programming at the time was very fluid. I would just come back when I could. I had 2 young daughters, so sometimes I'd do this twice a week, sometimes every 4th day, sometimes every 5th day, but it was more frequent. My assistants worked because I was in my basement. I didn't have a lot of tools. So I would jump down, usually do close grip bench presses. However I felt that day, 2 to 4 sets of 10 reps. Sometimes I would add in 2 sets of dumbbell bench presses or 3 sets of dumbbell bench presses. Sometimes after my benching, I just do dumbbell bench. Sometimes after my benching, I just do close grip bench. And sometimes when I wanted extra tricep work, it was lying tricep extensions, not skull crushers here, but tricep extensions back here for 2 to 3 sets of 10. So I would always do something following this, almost always. But what I did was just based on how I felt that day. And again, I was training more frequently, so I was going heavy every 3rd or 4th or 5th day. And I got my bench press. I have videos of me hitting a 500 pound and a 505 on this channel with a slingshot and chains, and it equated to about a 430 raw bench, give or take, and that was my goal heading into that meet. Unfortunately, for those of you that know my story, I came down with really bad type 2 diabetes, really bad fatty liver disease, and I nearly died at that time, and I never got to challenge myself at this weight on the platform. I got really sick, very sick a week before that meet, but that's a topic for another video. Now, at that point, I lost 100 pounds, and my bench press got pretty weak. I was down to, I remember struggling to hit 315 for 5 after the 100-pound loss. So lost a lot of weight, got my health back. At that point, I started to build my bench back up. At this point, my biggest competition lift, I believe, was 383 or 388 and a half by 5. I can't remember. I really can't. It's somewhere in that range. When I came back after the 100-pound loss, I beat that in competition by 5 pounds. So I set a new PR after losing 100 pounds in weight, and I did it using this program. In fact, a year after that, I actually got up to the point where I have a video on my Instagram where I did a 435 slingshot double, which with my slingshot's about a 400 raw double. So my bench actually crept up, my bench max actually crept up over 400, 410 at a body weight of about 242 at the time. So that's about where I peaked at the age of 49. Not super strong, but I was just glad I was stronger than where I was here. So anyway, here's a program I used for about 2 or 3 straight years. There wasn't many changes in programming. I would go in and I'd do very similar to this. I'd go in and do my warm-up sets. I do a heavy bench somewhere at 365 or over, depending on how I felt that day. Might be a 365 triple, a 365 5, might be 365 for max reps, might be 385. I'd creep up, like 20 pounds. Once I got up to a warm-up set of 315, I go up to 335, 355, or 365, maybe 385. When I felt really good, I'd try to set a new slingshot max, because I always train with the slingshot. I just like it, and I'm old AF. I'm 51, so I'm taking care of my shoulders. After that heavy work was done, I dropped down to 315, do it by max reps. Drop down to 275, do that for max reps. Drop down to 185 and do that for max reps. On the rare occasion, I would even drop down to 185 and do that for max reps. Now, the difference between these two programs is I was only doing this once a week. Now, some of you are going to be like, why were you only benching once a week? A lot of sources, a lot of coaches will say it's better to bench multiple times a week. Well, obviously here I was, and that was working out for me. But I'm older here. I'm approaching the age of 50. I'm 51 now. And the extra recovery time just felt better for me. Now, once I was done with my benching, a lot of times I would do the guillotine bench press for 2 to 3 sets of 10. I was trying to focus on my chest strength. Now, the guillotine bench press, you're not actually bringing it down to your neck. You don't want to bring your elbows too far back or you're going to hurt your shoulders. But I was bringing it down to about here, maybe 6 inches above my neck or whatever. And I could really feel a good chest contraction. I would do that right after benching for 2 to 3 sets of 10 reps. I would jump over to dumbbell bench press, go really heavy for 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps. My dumbbell bench at that time got up to like the 150s by 10, and I'd be doing that after all this work. Then I would drop down and do push-ups, 2 to 3 sets of max reps. Like, why do push-ups? Just because I wanted to. I wanted to get some extra chest work in that wasn't straight bench work. Was it helpful? I don't know. I just like to do push-ups. When push-ups were done, I would do close grip bench, about 3 sets for 10, and then I would do some tricep work depending on some more tricep work depending on how I felt that day, of either cable tricep extensions of 3 to 5 sets of 10, or lying tricep extensions, 3 sets of 10 to 15. So that's my bench work. Now understand, I backed that with a lot of really heavy back work. I did an incredible amount of heavy back work as well. Incredible amount of heavy shoulder work. My entire upper body was very strong at the time. I was doing 100s, 110s, 120s on seated dumbbell overhead presses for, a lot of reps, multiple sets of 10. I remember doing 100s for multiple sets of 10. And my dumbbell rows got up to like 240 for a set of 15. My deadlifts were as strong as they were at any time in my life. And I just focused on at that time, everything in my upper body was probably overall as strong as it ever had been. So there you have it, guys. Those are my 2 bench press programs. I've had a lot of questions over the years how I built my bench press. And again, this won't necessarily make sense to anybody. This is certainly not a magic program, and it's probably not a program that will work for anybody other than me. I just kind of got into powerlifting. I found this is what I like to do, so I just did what I like to do. I attacked it hard, and that's where I ended up on bench press. If I would have used something, a different form of periodization, or got more complicated, maybe that would have worked out better for me. But I'm stubborn, and I just wanted to have fun after over 2.5 decades of lifting. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. If you made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.